Hello, my name is Andrew Little. Good morning to my fellow neighbors, organizers, and members of the press. Thank you for coming out to our resident press conference near one of the beautiful ponds of the White Pond wetland. As neighbors, we stand before you today to give the resident side of the story. I will now read a prepared statement which can be found in the Community Input Report. In early September, Akron City Council unanimously voted to approve the initial permit for a luxury housing and retail development called White Pond Reserve, which would impact 60 or more acres of forest and historical wetlands in the White Pond neighborhood. Since then, a group of passionate Akron residents have held multiple citizen meetings with growing interest and engagement from the community. They have also organized events like the Community Hike and have written open letters, editorials, and countless emails to make their voices heard, and as citizens have been blocked from speaking at the numerous Monday afternoon committee meetings. But still, many more have attended the Monday evening city council meetings to make their voices heard. If you listen back to any of them, you'll hear the White Pond crisis overwhelmingly dominate the evening's public comment record, period. All of this at the sacrifice of time with spouses, children, friends, and partners, while juggling their jobs and other commitments, as well as bearing the toll on their mental well-being from combating the consistent stream of misinformation produced by the city. Earlier in the week, we shared our report on citizen concerns regarding the development that were collected during our November 29th community meeting, where we had around 200 attendees gather. The mayor also attended, accompanied by 6 Akron police officers. He spoke to none of the organizers and left right before the start of the public engagement activity. In our report, we documented the concerns the city has left unattended and found overwhelming support for a pause in development. In the petition put forth by Save White Pond, we gathered 553 Ohio signatures, with 368 of them from Akron. This week, some of our city's officials have claimed they have met us in the middle ground, but we're asking where that is. They claim they have answered our questions, made changes, and have now signaled they will do no more. We invite you now to listen directly to the people who live in these neighborhoods who have been doing the work the city wouldn't do. First up, Julie Caruso.
Thank you, Andrew. My name is Julie Caruso. I actually walked here, just 2 blocks away, across the street. And I want to speak a little bit about my lived experience. So after reading the most recent Akron Beacon Journal article given by Margot Somerville and Mayor Horrigan, the message I received was that my daily lived experiences as a resident living 2 blocks away to this proposed development are not real and they're not valid. These decisions have been made for us and without us. Those are the facts. The mayor and his buddies are on a PR tour. If the project will, quote, fall apart, unquote, if this is pushed back until April, why are we moving forward with it now? Why are they lying about all the citizen engagement and not hearing us? The proposed development is undeniably unpopular with many voters in the city, and I fear that it will easily pass with 7 votes next Monday. How could this be? You see this time and time again that people in power do not feel the need to be the voice of the majority, particularly those in power the longest in the city. The good old boy power politics leave us residents feeling hopeless. And this is something I hope Akron voters will remember in May. And then I'm going to bring up Megan Lugo.
Hello, my name is Megan Lugo. I live in Ward 1 and I oppose this development. While there are many reasons one could offer, the environment, the impact on this community, I will focus on a couple. We are told this is a good deal for Akron. People point to what they believe will be a great investment in our community, in all the accompanying tax revenue, and celebrate our great fortune. This administration touts this as part of their plan to bring people back to Akron, but it seems like this administration doesn't understand why people are leaving Akron. Our schools are underfunded. Our municipal services are stretched thin. Our administration has failed to capture and protect what is weird and cool about Akron. And this pursuit of people at the cost of our actual community only worsens the conditions of our city that make people want to leave. Now, for the record, we all want Akron to succeed. We want our wonderful little city to thrive. So you might say, wouldn't this development help ease this state of affairs? It seems so when we talk about our schools. We've been told by this administration that this would generate $8.8 million to Akron Public Schools over 30 years, which sounds amazing. But just as every piece of information this administration gives us about this development, you have to dig deeper to get the full picture. The bulk of that $8.8 million will likely come after 15 years. It is also likely that given Akron population demographics that 58 students would attend APS from this development. APS would have 58 students without the full funding it needs to serve them for 15 years, which we estimate would be approximately $3.6 million over those first 15 years. It might be relevant to note that based on estimated average rentals at White Pond Reserve and an occupancy of 245 units, that these developers would make from residential rents alone approximately $5.7 million in 1 year. As such, what the developers could make from residential rents alone in 2 years, Akron Public Schools would get after 30. Can our already suffering public school system take on the burden of dozens of students without the local funding they would otherwise normally get? With 15 years of abatements, can we really, given our current education crisis, withstand this extreme financial burden on our teachers and students? And to this being a good deal for Akronites, we know that there are oil and gas wells on the property whose royalties will be split, we have been told, between the developers and the city. But what we know about gas and oil wells is they are bad for the health of the people who live near them. Couple that with the soil toxicity, which we have not had adequate time to investigate, the active railway, which also exposes people to pollutants, and the freeway, which some studies estimate living near a freeway is just as detrimental to your health as living near a gas and oil well. We have to ask ourselves again, who is this good for? It can't possibly be, based on these negative downstream health effects, good for the people who would live here. Before I close, I do want to say that as a citizen who has been speaking out against this development since the summer, I personally do not feel that the administration's narrative about this process is accurate. In fact, I study organizational fairness, and the implication that this administration has engaged constituents, treated them fairly, and listened to their concerns is, in my opinion, a joke. The mayor and officials denigrated citizens by saying that we were misinforming people, claiming that they were outsiders, refusing to dignify questions with a response, and stood in the back of the November 29th community meeting with APD officers and Chief Milet, staring at citizens but leaving before the citizen engagement portion. There has been no real engagement with the citizens of this community, and because of that, because of the failure of this administration to listen to our concerns, we will have to face the continued pain and suffering of a government that fails to invest in and care for the people. And it is our community, our public servants, and our children who will suffer the most. And I will now bring up Miranda Florent.
Thank you for joining us today. My name is Miranda Florent. I live in Ward 4, and I'm a biology student at the University of Akron. I am also a community member that is deeply concerned about the proposed development here at White Pond Drive. Over the past few months, it is my opinion that the developer and the mayor's office have made it clear that they do not intend to engage citizens in good faith. In yesterday's Akron Beacon Journal interview, Councilor Margot Somerville said, quote, "We're trying to meet in the middle so that we get a meaningful project," unquote. I have to ask, where is the middle? Personally, I have never received a response from Councilor Somerville, the mayor, or the mayor's office. I have never spoken with them or had any meaningful engagement with them, despite countless attempts to do so. Instead, I have sat in council meetings where the mayor questioned how much public engagement is too much. I attended a community meeting on November 29th where the mayor left as soon as public comment and engagement began. I have listened to city officials claim there are no questions left and all concerns have been addressed, while I waited for responses to my questions and concerns that never came. So again, I must ask, where is the middle? I oppose the development at White Pond Drive for countless reasons. I'm concerned about the environmental impact on the wetlands and all of the species that rely on them. I'm concerned about the loss of green space, of tree canopy, and about the wildlife that reside in the forested areas. I'm worried that development will cause wildlife to lose or leave their homes, further contributing to the man-made displacement, death, and extinction of our planet's organisms. In a human-made mass extinction and climate crisis, it is more important every day to protect, preserve, and restore our lands. I am concerned about the safety and well-being of potential tenants. Per the city FAQ, soil at the site contains heavy metals, volatile organic compounds, fuel oil, arsenic, barium, cadmium, chromium, lead, and mercury, all at concerning levels. Per the developer, rental units will not have basements to prevent flooding and contaminant exposure. I have to ask, is this project really a good idea if these homes cannot even have basements due to the health risks posed on the site? I'm concerned about the proposed housing, especially the rental rates. I strongly believe it is morally reprehensible to create luxury housing in a city that sets the record for evictions across our entire state. Yesterday, the Akron Beacon Journal ran a story alongside the White Pond Drive interview titled, "Evictions Near Record High in Akron. Can anything avert this crisis?" I can tell you one thing that will not avert the eviction crisis: giving tax breaks and public land to a developer for the creation of unaffordable luxury housing on contaminated soil. I believe it is deeply unethical to provide housing for the wealthy while letting the struggling and unlucky freeze in our streets. I'm concerned about the process, about how little resident input has been valued or heard. I am especially concerned that the developers and the city are not approaching this project and concerned residents in good faith. For all of the reasons listed above and many more, I'm deeply opposed to this development. I believe it would be unethical, irresponsible, and morally wrong for the city to move forward with this proposal. Not only that, this development is not of high economic benefit to the city. Due to the tax abatement, the low sale price, and the lack of demand for luxury housing in Akron, it is unlikely that this project will benefit anyone but the developers, not the city, not the wildlife, not the tenants, and certainly not the residents of Akron. Until the city is prepared to meet us in good faith, to consider other paths and alternatives for this property, this sale should absolutely not go through. We are standing here in the middle, ready and willing to meet. We are asking for time, we are asking for conversations, and we are asking for consideration. Despite what the city has said, it appears we are standing here alone. Next, I would like to introduce Peter, a scientist and biologist at the University of Akron.